Hey, Steph, how are you doing?
Hey Jess, I'm great. How are you?
I'm delightful. So, thank you so much for agreeing to do this kind of interview testimonial with me so people can just gain a better understanding of what it's like to work with me and how it impacts their life.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I just think I love telling this story. Stephanie and I met so it is February of 2024 when we're doing this video right now, and we met in July of 2015, right after I'd gotten back from my deployment to Afghanistan, and we were hiking the Nepali coast in Hawaii on Kauai, and we found each other during a particularly treacherous part of the trail. And I remember Steph had shared with me that as a result of working with a life coach, she had made like a huge decision in her life, and it just planted the seed for me about coaching, and it really never left me. And so I always credit Steph with being the person who kind of inspired me to turn to coaching. And it was super fun because when I moved back to Hawaii and we met again, she became my first year-long client, and then has worked with me a couple of different times in a couple of different avenues. So I love telling that story. That was
Yeah,
the
I love our story. Our meet cute.
yeah, that was the less dramatic version. Did you notice I didn't use flair?
Yes.
But, so why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are?
I am Stephanie Bowles. I am a business strategy coach, which really means I help people think about their business and how to strategize, how to grow in a really sustainable way and make plans that work with themselves, with their team in whatever capacity they're in. Um, when I started my business, though, I actually started in professional organizing, and I think we'll get to that in a minute. And that's also when I started working with Jess, and just I knew there was something different calling to me, but I was meeting all these female entrepreneurs starting their business, these visionaries, and with my background of almost 20 years in education management, I've had a lot of project management experience and building organizations from the ground up. And so when I was meeting these women, I was like, okay, well, I have tools that can definitely help you like get clarity and get on track. And that is really what shaped my business to be what it is today.
Yeah, awesome. When you think back to when you decided to work with me, what was kind of going on with you then? What made you reach out?
Whew. So I'm trying to think of exactly when, but I know it was towards the middle or ending of the pandemic lockdown, really. And I had been living in Hawaii for, I think, probably about 10 years and had just left my full-time job, started my own, and was really debating on if I wanted to move back to be with my family in Minnesota, because my whole family's there. And that's the hardest part about living in Hawaii for me. Um, and and I just remember, so I went to Minnesota for 3 months. And when we talked, I just remember being at this point in my life where I felt like I had so many big decisions to make. And I felt so stuck. And that was really when I came to you. And because I had experience in EFT too, I was really drawn to you for that reason, because I knew the immediate effects of it. And so I was really looking to just like figure out my next way forward.
Awesome. Did you have any hesitations, or what were your hesitations, if any, that you might have had?
I think one of them was like knowing you, should my coach be my friend? And that got cleared up very quickly because yes, obviously I want my coach to be my friend. I feel like you knew me so well already and I liked the way that you pushed me. So that was an early on hesitation that got cleared up. And then I think another one was just like the amount of time and the investment. I had invested in coaches before, but not for that length of time. I think I had just done like one-offs or like paid as I went. And so that was something else that I was hesitant about, but it really turned around for me when, as we talked through it, like I really saw it as an investment in myself. And that's really what I wanted at that point in time. I wanted to know that I could show up for myself in that way.
Yeah. And at that point, I remember I I no longer have year-long packages now, but it was like the year-long package that we're committing to.
Yeah.
How kind of quickly then did you feel like, oh yeah, this was totally worth it?
Well, when I tell people about working with you, because I always tell people to work with you, I say, just help me make my big life decision in our first session. And you did.
Yeah, I think it was probably even in the consult, right?
Yeah, maybe even in the consult. But I remember the biggest decision I needed to or wanted to make first was where am I going to live? Because I had a few things relying on that. And you helped me get that clarity like right off the bat. So I was like, okay, I'm already moving forward. This is going to be a great year.
Yeah, awesome. What changes have you seen now? Because at this point, it's been, and you worked with me, we worked together for a year, and then we completed that package. And then I think it was like 4 to 5 months later is when you came back and you were like, I'd like to work with you again. And you did another 6-month package with me. How, like, can you speak to that process? Because I think that's sometimes interesting for people to know, like, sometimes you do a couple of packages, sometimes you take a break and you like come back, you learn, like, what was kind of your thought process then?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's something I notice and guide my clients through now.
Mhm.
I think at that time, well, I'll reflect in 2 ways, but at that time, I felt like I had gained so much momentum in the period of a year, and I was ready to just let it integrate and see where I was settling. And then I think a number of months later, the reason I was really interested in working together again was because rather than just needing to figure out my life generally, I felt this very specific thing coming up that I knew I wanted to work through. And it was around my personal relationship. And it was just so clear to me that the work we did together was going to help me like get through that.
Yeah, yes, that's awesome. I think that's the importance of being able to like really get in touch with our emotions and learn to understand them, and also offer ourselves self-compassion, because the more compassion we have for us, the more we have to give those around us too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I will say now, because I can't remember how you phrased the question, but it just made me think like the impact or the effects that I've seen even now, which is, what did we say, 3 years later, something?
Yeah, like I think it's probably been like maybe 2 years since we ended.
Okay, 2 years. There are just specifically around how I like notice my emotions or notice my reaction to things. I feel like I have just I like accelerated so quickly in this new path that sometimes I stop myself. I'm like, wow, I don't think I would be here right now if I hadn't done this work with Jess.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. What did you like best about working with me, or like my style?
I have to pick just a few things, but well, as I mentioned, like I love how our personalities are a little bit different. So the ways you push me, I wouldn't push myself, and I really appreciate that. So it's like you being blunt and very straightforward, but also with that, it's like you're super intuitive and you were able to like reflect back to me what I was saying in a way that I hadn't heard before. Like, so I just think your intuitive, direct process is what I really liked the best. And then I'm a huge fan of EFT, as I said. And so I love that that's part of your methodology and amongst other things, but and that you're like so committed to your art in that, like that is your craft, and I really appreciate that about you.
I love that. Thank you. Can you speak a little to that? Because you'd had a previous experience with a coach that also did EFT with you, and then, which is funny because I didn't know that at the first time. It wasn't until we reconnected and I was like, oh, because of you, I'm a life coach now. And you were like, and I was like, I'm also doing this EFT thing. And you were like, my last coach did it too, but I didn't think anybody knew what it was, so I didn't mention it.
Yeah.
But I know you've had like a couple different experiences with different levels of EFT practitioners. And is there something that you want to speak to on that?
Yeah, just my experience in general, or with you and how
Your experience, like, yeah, with other EFT practitioners compared to the experience that you had.
Yeah.
Not that it's a negative thing for anybody else, but one of the things, I'm just trained in clinical EFT, which is a really deeper kind of methodology.
Yeah. So the previous coach that I worked with who did EFT still was incredible and amazing, because it was the start of my noticing my emotions and how I react to things. And I remember I would walk into it was back when we did sessions in person before COVID, but I would walk into her office bawling my eyes out, and a half hour later, after some tapping, I was like totally calm and would leave there just feeling so relieved. And I thought it was magic. It was so amazing. And so when I reflect back on it now, that was very much like in the moment, getting me out of this like cloud that I was in. And I think the difference with you is we were really able to dig deeper into more specifically what I was feeling or how it might be linked to past experiences. And I think that is really the work over the course of, well, a year and a half in total, that has allowed me to like emerge differently and just approaching situations differently.
Yeah. Can you, I lost my train of thought for a second. Is it about EFT? Well, I'll go to the next one. Like, how has this made an impact on, like, specifically on business? Start there.
Yeah.
Because you were in the very early days of, you just left your job when we started working together, and you were, yes, doing the like personal organizing, which is so radically different from kind of what you're doing now. So how did that work help you now and continue to help you?
Yeah. I think I want to be thoughtful about this, but when I first started my business, I was also coming out of a place where I felt like I was not living my full potential in terms of like being of service to the world. And I was kind of like fragile in that space, and didn't have total confidence in what that would look like if I were fully like in my power. And so I think coaching definitely helped me be confident in myself and like trust my decisions that I make and make powerful decisions. And it was through that, like when I started the professional organizing, I always knew there was something else in the mindset that I wanted to work with, like the organization of what's going on up here. And yeah, being coached helped me realize that this is what I want to do with others too. And but the work we do, our styles are very different, but there's something too about being a guide. And when being a guide, also be willing to be guided, because we need that experience to like really get in the shoes of our clients. And so I think knowing that, yeah, I don't know if I want to say more than that, but
this is when I say period.
yeah, period. It would just be more fluff.
It comes up, actually, this is how does doing that work of understanding your own emotions and being in touch with that, how's that made you a better coach?
That is a really good question. I think first and foremost, and this kind of ties into the last question, like the experience of as now a coach, having been coached, it's seeing the power of stepping into a situation, or not a situation, like a relationship with a client and being totally neutral. And if things come up that from whatever the other person says, like knowing that that's not a personal attack, or just knowing how to identify like what's going on inside and how you're still showing up for the other person. I think that is something that has just come more to the forefront of my mind after the experience of working with you.
What about the impact of, because you do a lot of goal setting with your clients, and I've gotten to participate in some of your incredible workshops and group long masterminds, and something that we've both observed in there is just goal setting can be so triggering.
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes just even the word like panics people, right? Like, and so is there something about like this work that kind of allows you to work with your clients differently because of that? Or have you noticed that there's a difference in the way you approach people who are feeling that way about goal setting versus the way you might have thought about it before?
Yeah, definitely. I think because I don't know if you ever call what you do mindset coaching, but like that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're examining our minds.
And we're getting our bodies, like getting our bodies and brains in sync, right? Like I think that absolutely I do mindset coaching, but what people don't understand is that mindset coaching is not about I have to force myself to change my mind. It is about, yes, learning how to guide your thoughts and think on purpose, but it is also about bringing your body along for the experience. Because what happens when people are just like, oh, I just have to stay in my head and be logical about this, is our bodies feel dysregulated, and like we might feel anxious, overwhelmed, we're finding it, and then our head gets cluttered. And so when we're taking care of our bodies, which is what we do with EFT, it allows the mindset coaching, the other like kind of more logical based techniques to be like so much more easy to see and make those decisions because you're bringing your body to the party.
Yeah. And yes, I can't remember how you started the question, but I think the experience has definitely brought more patience in me for myself first, because I lean very much towards the logical side of things. But I'm also very intuitive. So that's always been a goal. I don't want to say a goal, but like at this point for me that like, how can I really merge those two? And I do think your style of coaching and the way that just the length of the partnership that we had together and working together was really helped me make that a consistent part of my work. And I definitely see how that plays out with my work with clients, especially the one-on-one clients, because if they're stuck, we sit there for a minute and we talk through like what's going on, and then we might set one goal instead of 4, or just making it work for where they are in that moment in time.
Yeah, it's awesome. Is there anything else I like haven't covered that you think would, oh, actually, what's something you might say to somebody that is like unsure about working with me, unsure of investing in themselves in that way?
It's totally worth it. Even if it's going to make you broke, or even if you have to take out a loan, or even if you have to have credit card debt, like honestly, I look at where I am now compared like, and how much I've grown in the last 2 years. And I really give credit to that for coaching. Like my business has almost tripled in that amount of time. And the clarity I have of where I want to take it is like, just gets clearer and clearer day by day. And I just feel it's because I've done all this work up front, like before I even started the business coaching. Yes. And that's why I feel like I'm just like on speed right now, or, just on this fast track, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. And I love watching it. And I love, because I'm inspired by you all the
Oh,
time. So I love it. Is there anything else in general, like you want to say, think I should
yeah,
know?
I would say too, like, for anyone listening who is unsure of like EFT or work in that realm, it's not as scary as it sounds. Even I was just talking to my husband last night and he's like, I don't know if I'm into that stuff. I was like, once you get there, it feels so amazing and it's just makes it so easy and accessible. And so I would just say if you have any reservation around EFT or other modalities, like just try it. You might surprise yourself.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.